Hey, it's Tom Gallaher, the Videopreneur, and today we have a wonderful guest. It's Townsend Wardlaw, and Townsend lives in Denver and very unique as far as sales. He's kind of a sales trainer and a marketing, he probably don't want me to say genius, but he's quite skilled in the marketing area. And you focus on customers, either individuals or companies in the $1 to $10 million range.
Yep.
And you do a lot of sales training with their sales force, and you help them try to keep the ship running all in the same direction, correct?
Yeah, my particular area of focus, what I'm really passionate about, are entrepreneurial-led, still founder-led in most cases businesses. Something unique happens in that $1 to $10 million range where the founder gets it to a certain point and they get stuck. And most of the stuff that got them there will not get them to the next level, right? And usually by the time I get there, they're very frustrated. They've tried to hire so-called, sales professionals, people with a lot of experience, big companies, and they've tried to hire themselves, if they can find them, and the business isn't going anywhere. So I'm very privileged to help those folks get out of the rut they're in and take their business to a much more profitable place where they have a lot more options.
Yes, yes. And the purpose of me doing these podcasts is I work with a lot of auto dealers and RV and motorcycle sales places. And it's about video, but also I want to be able to bring value to the salespeople and bring salespeople like yourself, sales trainers like yourself, to give them another angle or give them pause to think about the way they do their business and how they may do it differently. So that's where I think someone like you is just so beneficial to these salespeople.
Well, I would say I definitely tend to offer a different perspective on things. Oftentimes I'm at least 90 degrees, sometimes 180 degrees away from other folks. But the beautiful part about sales as a profession is there's a lot of ways to do it. My way is not the right way, or well, maybe I think it's a better way sometimes, but there's a lot of ways to do it, and different people feel more comfortable with different styles, and sometimes things work better in certain environments and things don't. So it's kind of fun. I get to play in my own little sandbox, so to speak.
Yeah, and one of the big values that you bring, and I've used it multiple times, is you offer online. I'm going to call it training. I don't know how you would. I would love to hear what you're going to say, but inexpensive, like a webinar that a salesperson can jump on, and you'll have 30, 40 people on there, but it allows you a chance to ask your questions and then you answer it, and it really is a great experience for the salesperson.
Yeah, I've utilized everything from just static video, YouTube, to webinars. I tend to call them master classes these days for a long time. Experimented with a lot of different models. I actually used to charge for my webinars, and at this point, all of my content, even the webinars, the live webinars, are free. I honestly got tired of dealing with all the nonsense. I get plenty of the kind of clients who want to pay me to come in and do more comprehensive things, and I really have a passion for sharing with folks, the knowledge I have. I got one coming up here recently on, or soon I should say, on, how do you actually get to the decision maker, the real decision maker? Very important topic. But I got a half a dozen other ones on closing, on how do you do referrals. And one of the things I've really tried to emphasize, Tom, over the past, decade at least, is this concept of the exactly how, right? Because so much of sales training is some guy standing up there waving their arms and taking concepts, and everybody's writing little notes and, oh yeah, that sounds great. And they get back to, their desk and they go, how do I do that? Right? I get it, but how do I do it? So, everything I do is about putting content, everything from videos to documents, guides, cheat sheets that here's the exactly how, here's the cook, not just the pretty picture of the nice meal, but step by step, how do you make it, in what order, what do you say? Not to be dogmatic. My hope is that people will change stuff, right? Will customize it for their own needs, put their own personal style. But to be able to start with a blueprint of, hey, this works. It may not be perfect for me, but man, if it's 85, 90% there, that's a pretty good start. So this exactly how concept is something that I've been really intentional about trying to help bring to folks.
Wonderful. Yeah, I've gotten a lot of value. That's how I came across you. I just came across you on YouTube and started watching. And the more I watched, the more I learned. And I'm not as deep of a thinker as you are. I'm not that smart, but I do appreciate it.
You always try that I'm not that smart line. I don't know. You registered Videopreneur a while back, so you can't be doing too badly.
Yeah, well, blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while. Well, why don't we jump in? I had a couple of questions I wanted to ask you. And the first one I wanted to ask you was about the power of video and how it can help a salesperson in the sales process today.
It's funny when you sent me the question and said, "Hey, the ones I'm asking," and I'm like, "Power of video." Who cares about video? Like that was literally my first thought. And I was talking to my wife about that, and she said, "You do realize you have about 300 videos out there, don't you?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I do." So I didn't really think of it in such a tangible way, but yeah, video has crept in, and I used to sit down and hammer out these articles and try to make the wording just right and very articulate. And I'm a very good writer. I really enjoy writing. I really like to write, to communicate, to teach. But at the end of the day, from the consumption standpoint, right, the other person on the other end of the medium, let's face it, people don't read as much. People don't, consume that content, and it's much more challenging for them to consume the written word accurately, thoughtfully, right, and internalize it. Whereas video is incredibly powerful, right? I've got something they shoot movies on now in my hand that I can go out, snap, 30 seconds of video, an hour of video, whatever. I'll go out in my balcony, my latest sort of round of YouTube stuff, if you will, are really short kind of, 4 or 5 minute little pieces where I'm just trying to convey what would otherwise be an almost impossible concept to convey, if I was, trying to type it out, trying to write an article, trying to write a post. Certainly would take me longer, right? I mean, I think it was, I don't know, maybe Mark Twain or Ernest Hemingway. Some famous writer was quoted as saying, I would have written you a shorter letter, but I didn't have the time. And the concept is to write compactly, to write powerfully, it's a lot of work, right? A small, 300, 400 word LinkedIn post that I want to use to drive traffic, that's several hours of work. No joke. People think you just sit down and type it out. I mean, I guess most people do. I don't, right? But to really write powerfully, to really convey, meaningful stuff takes time and effort. I can literally go out there with, 5 minutes with my, my little magical transportation device, shoot a video. I don't worry about lighting. I bought a $15 lapel mic with a long cord. I have all sorts of tripods and stuff that I use, whatever. And, I'm online, right? Somebody's consuming this stuff. I don't edit. I might do a fade in, fade out if I'm feeling really, really, motivated, but I don't even do that anymore. So yeah, power of video, it's unbelievable. In everything in our lives, it's so fast. I sort of joke, where do you go for information? When we were kids, you asked your parents a question, they said, go get the encyclopedia, go look it up, right? They had that World Book thing downstairs that they paid $1 bajillion for. You went down there. Now it's YouTube the damn thing, right? My kids will come up and show me stuff that they've figured out or they're doing. And it's like, where'd you learn that? YouTube, right? It's like, well, duh. So yeah, video is, it's where it's at. I mean, kind of simply, even as I sort of curmudgeonly said, well, I don't do video. No, yes, I do a ton of video. I do it all the time.
Yeah, I've got 2 sons, and my younger son lives in New Orleans, and I live in St. Louis. But my younger son, when he was growing up, he would very seldom come to me and ask me advice or my opinion. And one day we were driving, and I asked him, I said, how come you don't really lean on me or ask questions? I was always wearing my dad out.
I got the YouTube.
And he's like, I got YouTube. I
don't. You've been made obsolete, Pop. Sorry.
Yeah, I was replaced. Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking of, video, and in your opinion, how does a salesperson, or how should or could a salesperson leverage video? What's the best way, in your opinion, as far as selling a tangible item like a vehicle or something?
Yeah, well, I guess it sort of depends on, what you're trying to do. I mean, the obvious application is to display the product, right? And I think probably most organizations out there get that a video is far more engaging. But at the end of the day, I think video is a very powerful tool for establishing a relationship and conveying information, right? So, almost everything. My wife will go to the grocery store, hey, what's the thing we need? Well, think about it. She doesn't text me. She will FaceTime me. Hey, does this look right? Right. So we're engaging in real time, right? Interacting about something. Well, that's something that, salespeople can do. People are very people oriented, right? There's something inherently connecting about, right? I'm staring at you here on the screen here going, hey, it's my buddy Tom, right? We haven't seen each other in a while. So I think the real next thing for video is to figure out not just how to use it for static, product information, certainly content, certainly education, right? One of the big things I do, and I think this will be interesting to see if, folks in your industry pick this up, is using content as a way to create and build relationships far in advance of a purchase, right? So by way of example, when I'm looking to buy a car, I it's table stakes now. I expect, as Anthony and Irina said on the podcast I did with him, or the interview I did with him, if they don't have videos on the website, I'm bouncing, I'm gone. You're done. However, it's going to be more than that, right? Because when I want to buy something, and in this case, for you, a car, a motorcycle, what have you, I'm going to go to little old Google and I'm going to say, I'm looking for this make, this model, et cetera. And I'm going to get all these listings and I'm going to click on whoever. Well, if you're spending enough money on SEO, if you're playing that game, you might get the right ranking, what have you, but you might not. However, there are opportunities long before the purchase is even going to happen, right? To start to use video to engage the consumer, to help them, right? Again, I'll speak to Anthony's thing because I just heard his interview with you. He's got 1 million kids or 3 or 2 or whatever. And at some point, and he's way more detail oriented than I would just be like, yeah, let's go pick what you want. I don't really care. But, I imagine a guy like that would start to do research. He might even go out there and say, how do I buy a car for my teenager, right? So the question really would be, to what extent are dealers getting in that food chain, right? Everybody wants to have the conversation when somebody's ready to buy, right? No doubt. However, the business that you're going to earn is more likely to come from folks that you started to serve long before they were ready to make the purchase, right? I use, again, myself as an example. My average customer picks up the phone, calls me and says, Townsend, I need to give you a bunch of money. I need you to help me, right? They've been consuming my content for 18 to 24 months. They've been getting value from stuff that's out there. They've used my stuff. They've used my techniques. They've downloaded guides, ebooks. They've watched me on video. We have a relationship. I've never met them before, right? But we have a relationship, and I'm credible. They trust me because they've already used me. I don't ever say, I'm Townsend, blah, blah, blah. Somebody's calling me. They already know who I am. I've already added value to their life. So what I would say to folks who are looking at, video as a medium, for example, if you expect to sit there, in 5 years and 10 years and wait for the person who's got their wallet out ready to buy, walk on your lot, and do business with you just because you have what they want, you're sorely mistaken. People are going to do business with those individuals, companies, right, buying groups, whatever, who have made a commitment to serve those customers long before they were ready, right? How are you getting, I don't know, this is probably dramatic, but, the younger person, to start educating them about, credit, how to buy a car, all the things they need to know, such that when they're ready to buy, well, they're going to come to somebody that they trust, that has helped them, learn things they need to know, that has served them. Or if not, you're going to be that dealer who's a commodity, who is somebody to negotiate with, somebody to, to argue with about the price, and your entire relationship will be based on price. I don't negotiate on price with what I do, right? People say, how much? And I tell them, and they say, that sounds great, right? Why? Because it's not the conversation to have. Our relationship is so much more, simply because we've been able to, create this kind of interaction over months, over years. So hope that makes sense.
I knew you'd go deep, and yes, that was fantastic. And that's the interesting thing about it is, earlier you were talking about you love to write, but it takes time.
Yeah.
The thing about video is the average salesperson knows so much that the general public doesn't know, and they can take a moment and do a video about financing.
Yep.
When you go into the financing office, this is what you'll expect. When you come out of the financing office, this is what you can expect.
Absolutely. Well, the thing is that a car purchase is a major purchase, one of the most major other than a house, it's one of the biggest things people will buy in their lives. It presents all this fear, concern, etc. more importantly, it creates an opportunity, right, to establish a learning teaching relationship, right? I don't know. I've purchased maybe, I don't know, 8 cars in my life. That's not that much. And technology changes and the process changes. Last time I went to a car dealership, they had this big, Star Wars board on there. The guy's like moving stuff around and fancy signing. Well, I didn't know that was there. Think about it this way. That's an opportunity in my mind. In my head's going, why wasn't some sort of, something out there, buying a new car in 2018, or, this was a couple years ago. Hey, here's what's new. Here's what you're going to find. Don't freak out. Here's what's cool about it. They handed me a thumb drive with all my documents. I'm used to, the stack of paper and everything like that. So all these things that are actually interesting, that can be used as a means to start building, relationships with folks that you're serving by teaching them stuff. The thing is this, we're so close to the world, whatever world we're in, right? We're so close to it that we're sort of surprised these other people don't know what's going on. And, we also have to spend a lot of time. I mean, that's another benefit of just the video thing is, think about it this way. Somebody walks on a lot, you're talking to them. Maybe they didn't look at the videos, etc. Maybe, they just happen to come on the lot. Well, what are you doing to say, hey, listen, you may not be ready to buy right now, but I got a whole series of tips, negotiating tips, the process. I'm going to email you a link to a bunch of videos. You can just start getting familiar with the process. Whether you buy from me or anybody, this is going to help you be a more informed consumer. Well, who do you think they're going to buy from?
Exactly.
Right? The person that they watch 10 videos and go, wow, this guy's a straight shooter. This gal's really helped me learn. So many opportunities, right? And again, it takes 2 minutes. Like half my day is like, oh, that's a pretty cool thought. Let me whip it out, post it up to the internet. 2 weeks later, somebody's asked me a question. I'm like, oh, here, check out this video. I just put something up there about that. It's so easy. It's fun.
Yeah. Okay. So that leads it's a great segue to the next question I had. What do you say to the person that doesn't like the way they sound or doesn't like the way they look on video?
Yeah. Don't do video. You shouldn't. No, that's ridiculous. So I grew up on the East Coast. My formative years, we'll say, were in the 80s. And we had a guy out there that did commercials by the name of Crazy Eddie. I don't know if you ever heard of Crazy Eddie, but this was one of the least attractive, least stable looking persons that you would ever meet doing these commercials on TV, screaming and yelling about deals. This person, by the way, he went on to make millions and millions and millions of dollars. Now, a little problem with the IRS and some other things that kind of got in trouble. But the point is, this is 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, with somebody who frankly had, I'm sure people said, hey, you got a face for radio. But this guy went out there and said, I don't really care, right? The reality is, I hate myself on video. I hate seeing myself on video. I don't like it. I'm like looking at you here and I'm trying not to look at that little thing in the corner. I'm like, who's the goofy guy talking? The only people that think they look good on video are like TV weathermen or the broadcasters, what do you call them? The news anchors. That's what
anchors, yeah.
Who cares, right? At the end of the day, here's a little trick. Otherwise, your customer is going to figure out what you look like anyway, because they're going to walk into the dealership. So you might as well get them used to it. If you got a troll-like face, just, break the ice, get it over with quickly. Now, in all seriousness, it doesn't matter, right? Nobody, save for Ron Burgundy or, some other TV anchor, looks good on video or thinks they look good on video. We're all people. Walk around. We're all a bunch of funny-looking people, trying the best we can. Stop worrying about it. Get a good microphone. Right. And you got your headset thing on. That's fine. I'm using a what's called a blue microphone, which is a pain in the butt, but good sound. I literally went out and bought a $15 found on Amazon. They call them a lavalier mic. Makes killer sound, right? Makes, puts the thing right here. So it's perfect. And most of the stuff I shoot on a little mini tripod, but you don't have to be right up in front of the camera, right? You can be a little farther away. You can narrate and stuff. So the reality is you got to get over it, right? You may not have a radio voice. You may not have a TV face. You're just a person. And the most important thing is you're building a relationship with another person. They're not coming to a car dealer or a motorcycle dealer or anywhere to go meet a supermodel. Sorry, that's just not how the game is played. They're going to meet, frankly, guys like you and me. So
yeah,
stop worrying about it and get cracking.
Yeah. Wonderful. What do you say to the person that, or what's the best advice you can give to a person to get out in front of the competition? Because, video is just now starting to really take hold in the sales industry.
Yeah. So the other day, my wife said, wow, you have a lot of videos. And I'm like, yeah, I do. I never really thought about I'm going to set this goal or I'm going to do this much. What I did was I literally took sticky notes, and whenever I had an idea, I would write it down on the sticky note. And I had a little board I'd put it on. Today I have it. If I turn this camera on, you see it's on my window there. And it's just kind of my idea board. Anything I want to shoot on, anything I'm like, this might be a thing. And just do one, right? If you do one a day, two a day, it doesn't really matter. At some point, you're going to wake up and go, wow, I have a ton of content. Now, one of the great things about how the internet works is truly the more content you have, the more searchable you are. Now, here's another thing that people don't, normally get. I used to sit down and I'd take an idea and I'd script it out and I'd try to come up with this whole, here's what it's going to be and here's the idea and people are going to love this. And that was the most of what I did. And then once in a while, I would shoot something that was sort of off the cuff, not really think about it that much and just kind of go with it. Well, as you probably guess where the story is going, the stuff that I spent all this time on, editing, making it nice. By the way, I used to have studio lights in the basement, a backdrop. I yard saled that stuff years ago. The stuff that I thought was all polished and, refined and the message was clear, nobody watched. Somewhere along the way, there was this one video. I have one video on YouTube that does, it's not huge, but it does 500 views a day. And then I have some other technology running behind that gets me opt-ins off that. So I probably get about 20 to 30 new subscribers to my mailing list a day. So you got to remember this. Video is not what it was. We grew up with, first of all, Super 8 video cameras, like, to develop this stuff. Then we had these, shoulder mounted things. So we kind of grew up taking video really seriously. People today do not take video seriously, right? It's not this big overblown produced thing, Snapchat, for God's sakes, which I'm not a big fan of, but you think about the generation coming up who are going to be buying lots of cars. Video is a throwaway. Right? So you got to get detached from this mechanism of it's got to be right, it's got to be good. It's sort of funny. I go on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn recently released, the capability to shoot videos or put videos up there. And you have all these people making this huge deal out of, okay, everybody, it's my first video. And I was like, who cares? Do 10 more. Nobody cares. Like, get your 500 views and move on. A buddy of mine did this whole thing with like this, he got this smart board and the screen, and it was a great video. He got like 15 people to watch it. You cannot predict who's going to watch, how it's going to hit. What you can do is create a consistent pattern of your voice, right? The most important thing is you're not trying to be a character. You're not trying to create some sort of personality. You're actually, this is the beautiful part, just trying to be you, right? This is me, for better or worse, this is me. You have things like, Instagram, Snapchat. Now there's Periscope, which is a streaming video service. People are finally getting that video is about whoever you are, whatever your personality is, just putting it out there and stop worrying about, does it look right? Is it okay? Did it come across the proper way? The goal is consistency. One more thing on that. If you are in the car business, you have a unique advantage because every day you deal with consumers, right? And every one of those consumers is a set of conversations, and every one of those consumers should be able to kind of pop in your head thoughts about what happened, what was interesting, and how others might benefit from that. One of the reasons I was so prolific with content for a number of years is all I would do is I would leave a client, whatever we talked about, I would get on to my little voice recorder and narrate a little story. Hey, just left a client. Here's what we talked about, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes it sounded like this. Oh my God, these people are nuts. Here's what happened. They're crazy, whatever. It was funny, it was serious, whatever, but I just narrate it and then I would send it to a transcription service. And then I'd get it transcribed and then edit it. Well, that morphed to, I'm in the car going, at one point I had my little GoPro mounted in my car so I could basically do a live stream from my car on the way from my clients going, whatever happened. Whatever you talk to somebody about, whatever questions that they asked you about, whatever was interesting to them, there's a bajillion other people with the same question. So you don't have to sit here thinking about, what'll be interesting. Just do your job. Just have your day. By the way, people would actually be interested in what goes on behind the scenes. Right? Your world is not my world, right? If you just lost a deal because of, pricing, if you just lost a deal because they couldn't get finance, if a customer went ballistic on you because, somebody in the service, whatever it is, this is interesting stuff. Believe it or not, it makes you approachable. It shows that you're human. And if I am in the world of, thinking about cars, well, any way I can interface with that is positive for me. It's valuable to me. So it's not even about coming up with this amazing content. People talk about content calendar and who cares? Pick one or two things that happened today, one that was stupid, one that was funny, one that pissed you, whatever. Shoot a quick video. It's not complicated.
Well, the wonderful thing about speaking to you is you ask a question and get out of the way.
Yeah, I could keep going.
Yeah. Well, I love it. I appreciate it. So the next question I have, and you kind of delved into it already, is about personal branding. Do you have any, you've branded yourself. Do you have any thoughts or ideas on salespeople and how they can brand themselves?
Yes. And here's the way I think about branding. Branding is not this exercise you go through, in my opinion, to try and create something that you're not. Simple reason, it's too much work to try and maintain it, right? Imagine me trying to brand myself as Anthony Iannarino, right? Sitting all serene and talking and I know and not moving and, you know, the books and like Andy's you know what? Andy's just being Anthony, right? He's just being him. He doesn't wake up and go, okay, get in character. He's just him.
Yes.
That works for some people. Good or bad, like it or love it, you know, I'm me. So branding is really, for lack of a better term, the embracing of who you are and letting the people that love you be cool with it and the people that aren't also be cool with it. So, you know, there's some basic stuff as in, you know, have your name out there, you know, some sort of, you know, formatting logo, stuff like that, but don't go crazy with it. You don't need to go to a branding agency. One of the things that drives me nuts is I coach a lot of entrepreneurs who are looking to start a business, looking to get out on their own. They'll spend a year on branding and websites and all this crap. I'm like, just get out there and start talking to people. One way to do it is just start shooting videos, just start being yourself. If you go to my YouTube channel and scroll all the way to the bottom, keep scrolling, you're going to see some funny stuff, right? You're going to see me sitting there in a t-shirt with crazy curly hair, less gray. I leave those up there because it's sort of funny. It's just the evolution of me. When I see somebody who over 10 years doesn't change, doesn't move, like doesn't have a wrinkle, I'm a little suspicious. That person is probably a robot or a cyborg or something I don't want to do business with. So people want to do business with people that they trust, that they find credible. Trust and credibility are a function of this, interactions over time. There is no one thing you're going to say that's going to have somebody say, okay, I like that guy, I'm going to do business with him. It's consistency over time, right? A character that you're trying to maintain, you can't keep that. If you go, I'm just going to be me, right? Life gets a lot easier. And, you know, surprise, surprise, turns out people might actually like you exactly as you are.
Yeah, yeah. Well, consistency, that's the key. You're exactly right.
Much easier to be consistent if you're just being yourself.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's hard for people. I mean, people perceive it as hard, right? They think that, you know, I don't know what they think because I didn't really have that problem. But I see people struggling with it and, you know, afraid to put themselves out there and, oh, I hated that video. And yeah, at this point, I literally won't even do a second take on something. I'll shoot a video. If I screwed up, I'll say, yeah, that sounded kind of weird when I said it like that. But, you know what I meant.
Yeah.
Right? That's how I talk. And here's the secret. Most people talk that way. Very few people are as polished as they somehow think they need to show up for others. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So I've got one last question, and this is a question that's not related to video, and it doesn't even have to be related to sales, but it's just about advice. What is the best advice that you've ever received in your life?
The best advice. That's a broad question.
It is.
A very broad question. You know, I'm going to go back to be yourself, right? And that was something that, you know, my mom was really always about be yourself. My dad always shared something with me, which wasn't so much advice, but it was really an affirmation. He told me from a very young age, you can do whatever you want, right? Now, usually it was in response to me asking him a question, hey, what should I do about this? And he would say, well, you could do whatever you want. What was interesting is the first 20-something years of my life, I thought that meant he didn't care. I thought it meant that, you know, hey, whatever, you know, I don't really give a darn. One day I'm sitting there with my aunt, you know, as you know, us kids in our 20s do, or kids in their 20s do. And I was bemoaning the fact how my dad didn't really care and didn't show enough interest, or, you know, whatever I was moaning about as a ungrateful 20-year-old, 20-something. And She said, "Are you kidding me? Your dad loves you. He worships the ground you walk on. What makes you think he doesn't care?" I said, "Well, he always tells me you can do whatever you want." She had a little more colorful language than I'll use on your show. But what she basically said was, "You're a knucklehead." What he meant was, anything is possible. You can do whatever you set your mind to. You just were hearing him wrong. And I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. So, stop worrying about other people. Stop worrying what they think. Stop worrying about, frankly, tomorrow, right? Tomorrow might never come, and yesterday is long gone. Be in the moment, live in the moment, as some of us like to say, live on purpose, right?
Yes.
And that's what I would say is probably the best advice from a bunch of different angles that I've ever gotten.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. And so if people want more information on you, what's the best way to find you? And I'll have links below to things, but
well, what I always say is when the student's ready, the teacher appears. So as with everything, people just show up at my door all the time going, "I don't know how I found you," but if that doesn't, really cover your need, then, I got a website, townsendwardlaw.com. If you start typing in Townsend Wardlaw, I'm pretty sure you'll find me. I got a YouTube channel. I got a LinkedIn page. There's not a whole lot of Townsend Wardlaws out there.
yes.
So as long as you can spell it, you got a good shot at finding me. And there's just a lot of stuff. You do a Google search of my name, and there's all sorts of stuff out there. Most of it's not disparaging, and I think I got most of the records erased and expunged and all that stuff. But I'm pretty easy to find. LinkedIn's a great place. I actually have my email address right on my LinkedIn homepage. So if people want to get a hold of me directly, they can do so.
What's funny is it just dawned on me when I first started watching your YouTube channel, you had a video where you were with some people on the front porch of your home and you were drinking beer, and you said something about, if you ever want to have a beer, come on by. And I thought, I got to get out to Denver.
Yeah. So it used to be called DOMP, Drinks on My Porch was the acronym. We've since moved downtown here. I have this amazing 80-foot west-facing balcony, which every day I wake up and say, how did I show up in here? But now it's booze on my balcony or bomb, because it's not a porch anymore. But yeah, we have on Fridays in the summer, it could be anywhere from 10 to 30, 40 people. It's gotten bigger now that we're downtown, and just cool people, a lot of sales types, a lot of consultants, a lot of marketing types. We're not here to sell or network. It's just good people who want to meet other folks trying to make a way, right? Wonderful. So yeah, I guess if you're in Denver and want to come hit it, hit me up, send me an email. I'll give you the address, put you on the list.
Wonderful. So I would be remiss if I didn't ask this question. You mentioned that you've got another mastermind coming up soon. Is there a place I can get that link, and I'll put it below? Yeah,
do that. Probably the best place. I'll shoot you the link. It basically is one of my landing pages. Also, if you go to LinkedIn and find me and search some of my posts, what have you, it's pretty easy to find in there.
Wonderful.
And then, worst case, somebody send me an email. I'll send you a package of all the other webinars. So,
well, it's great content, and thank you again. Thank you for your time today too. You always bring it.
Thank you, my friend. Great to chat with you.
Great talking to you. Thank you again, Townsend.